Welcome to the Art of Money podcast with Art McPherson.
And thanks for checking out the Art of Money podcast. My name is Mark Owens alongside Art McPherson and Luke McCarty. All the information for the McPherson Financial Group, you can find it at theartofmoneyradio.com. There was a new poll that revealed that 16% of American adults don't use their dishwasher. Most will just hand wash the dishes and then use the racks to dry them. And then the question is, why even have a dishwasher at all? This made me think of 401ks, Art, Luke, because so many balances are really high right now. There's really a temptation to dip into them for enjoyable things like travel and maybe buying a new car. So, how do you convince a client from using their retirement plans for something other than just retirement?
So any lump sum, decisions from a 401k, you need to think about the tax implications, right? If you're in the 22% tax bracket, and you want to buy a car, and you want to pay cash for that car, and let's say the car is $50,000, well, you're going to pay 22% to buy that car. So does it make more sense to find a 0% financing or 2.9% financing? So the lump sum distributions from the 401k need to be extremely cautious of your tax bracket. And we've been saying, all year, basically, taxes are going up. So, we have clients where, hey, they've made some good amount of money in their accounts this year, and they want to just, take that chunk out. Well, some of them I said, yes, you can do that. You're in your tax bracket. Some I say, wait till January or do half this year, half next year. There's a lot more that goes into it than just, hey, I've made money, give me my 2/3, because that's what it's going to be, right? You're going to get 2/3 pretty much over time of that 401k if you don't do the right planning.
Right. And one of the things that people forget a lot of times too, Mark, is as soon as you remove the lump sum, you remove the power that lump sum would produce an income. And a lot of times people forget that. So if you're taking $100,000 out of your 401k because you want to pay the house off, you just lost the income that $100,000 would provide you not only this year, but for the rest of your retirement. So sometimes the costs of that can be much higher than you're just looking at from an annual perspective. You may have a long-term, because it's kind of like you're killing the goose that's laying the golden eggs for you. So when you go in there and you say, hey, I want to pull out some of the feathers off my goose here, well, you can't really do that. So you're taking $1 million portfolio and cutting it down to $900,000. You're taking a $2 million portfolio and cutting down to $1.8 million. When you do that kind of a thing, not only do you lose that part of the turkey there, you're losing part of that 401k at that point. And now that income that would be produced over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So there can be a huge cost to that. And a lot of times people forget about that, and they definitely forget about the taxes. So you got to be very, very careful, exactly what Luke was saying about the tax part of it. And that's why we have Mark here. That's why we have Mike here, guys that are experts in taxation, to make sure our clients don't make those mistakes and walk alongside of them and try to let them make good, positive decisions. Because if you go out there and borrow at 0% right now and get a car or a vehicle, instead of paying 22% in tax, why would you do that? Especially since you're already paying a premium on a car right now, because all those rates are up. Luke just read that earlier. The inflation on cars right now, used cars are up 26%. So,
hey, Luke, we were talking about like what people dip into their retirement accounts and their 401ks maybe to splurge a little bit. Outside of like travel, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, what's the craziest thing that somebody's come in and said, I want to dip into this bucket because I want to do blank, or I want to buy blank?
I don't have any crazy cool purchase stories, but I've seen some crazy parents. Now, they may not have been crazy when their kids were little, but I call them crazy now, who are taking $50,000 to $60,000 out of a 401k to pay for a kid's college. I think that's crazy, right? Because then you're paying 22, 24% premium to get that out. I can't recall any cool one-off crazy items. How about you, Art?
The coolest thing I think recently that I can say is I saw somebody buy a center engine vet, but they didn't take money out of their 401k to do it. Usually Luke and I are very careful with our clients on that. I would rather take the monthly payment out, of the 401k to help pay for that car or something like that. But the lump sums are really, got to be careful there. But yeah, no exotic snakes, no exotic animals.
No travel in the world.
No exotic monkeys to throw you beer for while you're doing your beer floater out there, Mark Owens. But
I'm just asking if it's personal.
I mean, I've asked that question. Actually, that's funny that you asked us that. I've asked that to some of the celebrities on the red carpet. Like, what was the biggest purchase you used with your signing bonus and things like that? And usually it was something for mom.
Yeah.
They would say, oh, I bought a house for my mom. I bought a house for this for mom. Mom always took care of me, blah, blah, blah. And so then I had to change it, and I had to say, what was your biggest purchase you did besides for mom?
and then it would be what? Something for themselves?
Usually a Lambo, Ferrari, something like that. Yeah.
If you want to make sure your plan is together, where if you do want that exotic monkey, it can happen. They may kind of steer you the other direction, but we got to make sure your plan's together that you can buy that monkey if you want it. 772-281-5223. That's how you reach out to Art McPherson, Luke McCarty, and the entire team at the McPherson Financial Group. So if you were to leave your traditional IRA to a loved one, the new Secure Act gives them 10 years to withdraw all of it and then pay taxes on it. So Luke McCarty, would they benefit more by taking a little bit in each of those 10 years, or would they be better off letting it sit and then withdrawing one lump sum at the end of the 10 years?
If you were to inherit an IRA right this year, you have 10 years to take all the money out, pay all the taxes. So it really depends where you are in your career, where you are in your tax bracket. If you're going to work for, call it 6 or 7 years and then retire, well, it may make sense to defer all those gains and take them out over the first couple years of your retirement because you no longer have a paycheck. If you're my age or your age too, Mark, no offense, but if you're our age now, we're probably working for more than 10 years. So it would make the most sense to at least take 10% out per year, stretch it out. And I actually have a client now who has one, and she is in the 12% tax bracket and has already taken out, the 10% for each 10 years. I said, we need to maximize that 12% bracket. Take as much as we can out this year, because that 12% is going up in 2026 to 15%. So if we can save 3% on everything we take out of there, just by doing some tax planning, it makes a lot of sense.
772-281-5223. And there was a story in Kiplinger that complains that too many financial advisors are neglecting to help their clients prepare for long-term care. Now, Luke McCarty, Art McPherson, is that something you usually cover? And if so, what kind of options do we have?
We do. We go over those options every time somebody comes in. And that's one of the things we do after we get their asset allocation taken care of, after we really do a good job in their portfolio. We want to start talking about those legacy type issues, or what could derail all of our planning. So one of the things that can derail a great plan is a lot of long-term care costs. And there's a lot of solves for long-term care. But one thing that Luke and I do not like to do to our clients is we don't want them having long-term care fees, especially if they're $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year or more in retirement, because that's another cash flow problem. So we don't want to solve one problem and create another. So a lot of times we're looking for solves where we can do something in a short window of time, say 5 years, have all those long-term care costs paid for, or at least a big portion of them. So that way we know we've solved for it, we've planned for it, and then our clients know that they don't have to keep all this huge assets on the sidelines to account for long-term care that they may not ever need to use.
Luke McCarty, is long-term care something that a lot of your clients, they know it's there, but they kind of overlook it, or is it kind of a surprise to them when you start going over the options?
I think a lot of people in general overlook it because it's not something you ever want to plan for, because then you think of yourself needing it. So people put it off like they put off estate planning, right? They don't want to talk about their death, and they don't want to talk about what happens, so they don't do it. We see that a lot with long-term care, even though we as, humans, right? We pay for insurance on our cars and we hope we never use it. Pay for insurance on our house and hope we never use it. And then we pay insurance on life that we know we're only going to use it once, right? Potentially when we pass away. So we try to come up with different solutions of how to solve for long-term care, right? If you self-insure, you need to have that bucket of money outpacing the inflation on long-term care. I wish I could find a stat. Maybe next week I will, to see what the cost of long-term care is rising now that everything else is kind of going up at 6.2%. Mm-hmm. So you have to have that option, or you have to have the insurance option. There's several different ways to go about it from the insurance side. Everybody's plan and scenario is a little bit different.
It's all about having the right plan and make sure every box is checked. And Kiplinger says that baby boomers are going to be leaving $68 trillion to their families over the next 25 years. Now, many of those are incapable of managing their money in a responsible manner. So is that something that we should also address? We talk about long-term care, but what about estate planning, leaving money to the family? That's an important part.
It's a very important part, especially if 90% of that money that is coming over is IRA money. Then all those rules that Luke was talking about earlier in the show are apply now, because you can only stretch that for a maximum of 10 years. It used to be that money before, you could stretch it over your whole life expectancy as a beneficiary. No longer is that allowed. So you have to spend that money within a 10-year period of time. Typically, the average baby boomer child or grandchild that's receiving these assets are receiving at their highest earnings level. So they're at their peak earnings. So taking all that as a lump sum is going to be very costly, and you don't want to do that. So you want to stretch that over the duration of time you can, and you want to try to maximize the tax savings during that period. So one of the things we'll do is if we do have inheritance money coming in for some of our clients that fall in that window, we want to make sure we've really come up with a plan of attack to how to do that, how to roll that money from grandma, grandpa to the beneficiary, or from grandma and grandpa to the kids. We just want to make sure you have looked at that. We have that scenario all the time. We have that conversation all the time with our clients.
Do you agree with that Kiplinger story that a lot of people who inherit a very life-changing amount of money, they're not prepared for it and they waste it or they blow it real fast?
I think the statistics are 18 months. Mm-hmm. Most inheritance is completely gone in 18 months, no matter what the size of it. So if you have a sizable inheritance, I mean, it's new money, it's newfound. If you don't get help, or if you're not savvy enough to do it on your own, it's potentially going to be gone. And with these numbers, right, the 68 trillion, that's about 200,000 to each person.
Yeah,
each citizen in the United States, about 200K. If we think about taxing that over the next 10 years, do you think with the 68 trillion, I mean, probably 55 of it's going to be taxable in an IRA? We're just guessing. Mm-hmm. Do you think we can balance a budget? Vote for Mark. Vote for Luke. I don't think we're going to balance a budget then either.
Thanks for listening. Want more from Art McPherson of McPherson Financial Group? Find us online at artofmoneyradio.com. We are an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of financial and insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. Securities offered through World Equity Group, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC, a registered investment advisor. Investment advisory services offered through ProStatus Group, LLC. McPherson Financial Group and ProStatus Group, LLC are separate entities and are not owned or controlled by World Equity Group, Inc. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Investment financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. Art McPherson is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Arthur McPherson. Florida Insurance License number A174. 725.
Today's show has been a work of art.